So hi, I'm Mick Hobday, the Cornflake Traveller, as you can see. Professionally speaking, I am a jack of all trades. I've been a scuba diver in Honduras. I've worked in Los Angeles in a cancer research lab. I worked in New York as a painter decorator, waiter, cycle courier. This is me in France working as a holiday rep. I worked in Spain. All sorts of jobs in the UK, in offices and pubs and all sorts. But this was just to fund my real passion in life, traveling. So I was diagnosed when I was 9 years old. I went through the schooling system, which ended with me getting a degree in genetics. I chose not to pursue a career, but instead hit the road. And now, 14 years later, 82 countries, I'm now written about in magazines, newspapers, websites, blogs. I've been interviewed on the radio in all sorts of countries. I was even interviewed live across the globe on Australian breakfast time TV, which is a crazy but interesting story, which I don't have time for, sadly. The first 10 years of my life, I didn't really tell my story. I wrote a blog, but it was all just for me, and the blog was for my friends and family. But then after 10 years, I decided to write a book and started making films. And I also started recently blogging for diabetes.org.uk. And I do this because I wish to inspire young diabetics and anyone really to enjoy their lives, to not let diabetes get them down, and to actually see some positives. I've got some positive things that I've taken from diabetes. So I'm a traveller, an author, a filmmaker, known as the Cornflake Traveller. And this is because my aim in life is to eat a bowl of cornflakes in every country in the world. This is all I want to do. I know, crazy, huh? But I just got back off a 2.5-month trip around Poland and the Baltic states. Here you can see, this is my photo and my cornflake opportunity in Latvia. This was Europe's widest waterfall. It's like 250 meters wide. This is my shot from Poland. It was a really religious country. The churches were full, and they're so proud of their Polish Pope, and there's hundreds and hundreds of these statues, so I chose that to be my moment. Other trips, I went to India. This was probably the most religious country I've ever been to. This is a blessing on the beach. It's a Hindu ceremony, basically, and you do all sorts of chanting. And this was me eating cornflakes with a family doing this ceremony in the background. You have to walk down to the beach and throw these flower petals over the back into the sea, which is interesting, let's put it that way. This was me with a tribe in Africa. They don't have much contact with the Western world, these people. I actually really saved the day because they were going to kill a goat because they were running out of food. There was a drought on at the time, and I turned up with cornflakes, and they loved it, actually. This was one of my favorite places. This was in the Sahara Desert in Mauritania. And you can see, obviously, I'm eating cornflakes, but the scenery was absolutely amazing. Israel, floating in the Dead Sea. This was quite a hard moment to have, actually, because there's so much salt in the water. I actually had to seal the cornflakes in a Tupperware container because it's actually poisonous if you eat it. So yeah, that was a pretty tricky flake moment. This was Iceland. I cycled around Iceland with a friend of mine, and this was just beautiful scenery. There was these ice sculptures floating in the lake, the glacier in the background you can see there, and yeah, that was quite a beautiful shot. This was another amazing one. This was Botswana. I did a boat tour and then a jeep tour and saw, must have been over 500 elephants. So this was a pretty spectacular cornflake moment for myself. Macedonia was just farmland, so I chose to have a shot in a tractor. Tunisia, famous for camels, and this is me getting the Cornflake Traveller in Arabic tattooed on my arm, kind of bridging the gap to the Muslim world if we can. So anyway, enough holiday snaps. As you can see, my life has been a little bit different to most, and I would like to give credit actually to diabetes for helping me be a different person. There were aspects of my young diabetic life which were really influential in shaping my personality. Firstly, the structured day. I was on Mixtard when I was first diagnosed, and having to do injections at set times and eat a digestive biscuit in the morning. It was just very structured for me, and it made me sort of develop a rebellious side to my personality. I wanted to be free and independent, so if any of you are feeling the same, I actually changed from Mixtard to fast-acting, slow-acting treatment, which made a big difference. It freed up so much more time, and it made me a lot more free. Another way that it really developed my personality was I was told about complications and I was going to have a reduced lifespan. The doctor I had at the time was particularly heartless and actually scared me a lot, and it made me think, well, I haven't got much time on the planet, so I'm going to have a good time. So it's kind of still this I'm here for a good time, not a long time attitude in my life. I actually obviously want to live for a good long time. So I really take care of myself, but it made me want to live my life and not be scared of dying or complications that it stopped me living my life, basically. I would like to add that you should listen to your medical professionals because they do know what they're talking about. For the first few years of my life, I didn't really pay attention, and I didn't listen to the fact that you have to rotate your injection sites. I used to just lift up my trouser leg and inject in my calves, and I developed lumps. They talk about the development of lumps, and that actually happened to me. It's not too bad because I spotted it early, but you can see them there, so it's something, listen to the people because they do know what they're talking about. Another thing was it taught me to look after myself. There were so many occasions when I had a hypo, I just wanted to curl up and lie down or curl up into a ball or something, and I had to go and find sugar. Sometimes I had to go to the shop or something, and it really made me sort of not to rely on others, but take care of myself. One of my favorite stories or my proudest moments when it comes to this kind of thing was I cycled 4,000 miles around Europe to get to the World Cup in Germany in 2006. And I was camping every night, and I woke up in Austria going hypo in the morning. And I had to pack up all my camping stuff, roll up the mattress, everything, and then cycle about 20 miles to the shop to find sugar, which was this was probably one of the hardest diabetic-related things I've ever done. This was a great moment in Bolivia because although I'm fiercely independent, I've had to have help over the years. I've needed lots of people, medical professionals, people I've met traveling, friends, family, they've really helped me. One time in Bolivia, I checked into a hotel just really late at night and woke up, came around, the next thing I knew, I was in the kitchen of the hotel and the hotel owner was cooking me dinner. It was like 3 in the morning. So many occasions I've really had to seek help from people. It saved me because I wouldn't have been able to go on this tour, and it's really amazing. You can see me holding a bag of TNT here, which we exploded later, and this is a 13-year-old boy who was working in this mine it was about £1.10 for a 10-hour shift he got in the day. It was unbelievable, and there's asbestos inside this mine, and so sometimes seeking help has actually helped my travels. It's not just to do with diabetes, also this guy called Commando just gave me his house. I was looking for a place to camp, and he just said, oh, you can have my house. And I ended up staying in this shanty town, this house made of corrugated iron, which was a really great experience. And as I said, seek help from people because people are very helpful. If you're ever in trouble, just go and ask people for help. Okay, diabetes also helped me to realize that we are all different, but all equal. I had a teacher at school who was not so nice, let's put it this way. Here's a photo of her. I used to inject at school just in front of my classmates, and she found me one time and she went crazy, actually. She took me to the headmaster. They lectured me on the reputation of the school and what would happen if the press found out. They told me I might be encouraging other students to take drugs. Some really bad stuff, actually, but my mum went crazy. She went up to the school and fought the head teacher, and for a week I had to go to the medical room and do my injections, but she said it's not fair that I'm treated differently. So I actually just started to, after this week, just inject in front of my friends. I did a talk in front of them, educated them about the importance of diabetes and the importance about knowing these kind of things. I told them all sorts of stuff to do with how to treat me. At the same time, I had a really bad incident because one of the people in my year found me going hypo one time down the park, and she injected me. I was in a real bad state of consciousness. I didn't really know exactly what was going on, and she gave me some insulin. I woke up the next morning in a puddle in the park and went crazy. I had to go and, I had to go with this girl, obviously, like, what were you doing? And she told me, well, you're an ill diabetic, and all I know is that a diabetic's treatment is insulin. So I was like, okay, I understood, it's completely understandable. So now I really emphasize to people that if I'm ill, if I'm weird, give me sugar. And you might want to do the same. Tell them that, if you need sugar, it can affect your brain, but if you're high and you need insulin, then you can fix yourself. Okay, so I used to think of diabetes as a negative thing, but it's actually brought me lots of positive things also. As I said, it's shaped my personality. It's made me really aware of what I put into my body. I don't eat junk food, or I do eat some, but I've really cut down on the amount of junk food and sugary stuff I eat. So it's given me a better diet. It's allowed me to meet curious people. This is probably one of my favorite things from diabetes. So many times I've been on a bus traveling through somewhere and I've just injected myself because I just do it openly. I'm not scared to do it. And people have asked me questions, what are you doing? What's this? And it's, I've made friends this way, and it's been, it's really helped me to meet people. I've even let people inject me. It's like a really good icebreaker. Yeah, some people, if I know them, not anyone, but some people I've met in pubs or something, I let them inject me, and it helps me make friends. So there are certain things you can do to take something positive out of it. Going hypo, there's some amazing experiences. You experience a real change in perception. We've wanted to do that all throughout human history. Shamans in the jungle take, hallucinogenic potions. A lot of people in this country go down to the pub at the weekend to experience this change in perception. So it's given me some experiences that when I look back on my life, I'm really grateful for, actually. They obviously affect your mind and your body in large number of ways. But I would say to embed in your head that if something is strange, have sugar. It's really important, I think, because there's so many times where I've been in this fight or flight mode, just different state of consciousness. You don't really know what's going on. You haven't got the conscious brain isn't working as well, and you're in this kind of crazy kind of, this is how I act sometimes, honestly. Girlfriends will tell you how I can be really moody, or I can be really juvenile sometimes. I can be acting like a 5-year-old, and my parents will tell me how aggressive I've become sometimes. I've been fighting them, I don't want sugar, and throwing it in places like this, and it really changes how you are. It changes your personality. I flew home from South America, and I wanted to surprise my parents. And it was about 30 hours traveling. I had to get the train back from Gatwick, and I arrived home, and the house was empty. So I was like, okay, really tired. I had a little siesta. While I was going hypo, I must have had a hypo. While I was sleeping, I must have had a hypo. And I started wandering around the house. I couldn't remember how I got there. I've actually found that going hypo when I'm asleep deletes memory even before I have a hypo. So I arrived back and I couldn't remember how I got back to the UK. So I'm walking around my mum's house thinking I was dead. I actually thought, what's happened? I was in Buenos Aires, and now I'm suddenly in my empty mum's house. It felt, obviously with this strange state of mind I was in, I didn't really know what was going on, and I thought, I've died. I was trying to remember, how did I die? Did I get hit by a car or something? As I said, embed in your head, if something's weird, have sugar, because I was wandering around and I just thought, oh, let me try some sugar, why not, and I had sugar and then came out of it and cried a hell of a lot because I really thought I was dead, and then I suddenly realised, okay, I'm not, brilliant, Another time I was wandering around New York, along the streets of Manhattan, and all of a sudden I just felt suicidal. I was really considering jumping in front of a bus. I really was just, on the verge of jumping in front of this bus, but again I thought, let me have some sugar first, kind of last supper, I'll have some chocolate bars.
Do you not have hypo-awareness?
Hypo-awareness? What's hypo?
Can you feel when you're hypo?
I used to be able to.
And you think you've lost it?
I lost it. No, I used to know my blood sugars really well. I used to be able to say I'm between 7 and 9, and I'd be something like that. But I lost it when I was probably 28, 29. It started to go slowly. And now it's actually, now I'm 37 now, it's actually, I can think I'm hypo, but I'm actually high. I've lost that ability, but I did have. It's changed, so I get different types of symptoms, and now moodiness is one. I'm talking about moodiness. That's one thing that I recognize nowadays. If my mood drops, I'm like, oh, okay, do a blood test, and I'm going hypo. So suicidal in New York, I mean, the first time this happened, it was really scary, but now because I've experienced this, I'm aware of it, and I can actually just, oh, I'm moody, I'm depressed, okay, I need to have some sugar. So, I've had all the usual symptoms of hypos that you can read about, but I've also had some different ones as well. When I was in Buenos Aires, I was on a balcony looking down at some protests, and I suddenly started to get shakes, uncontrollable shakes. I was just there watching, and suddenly I couldn't control my arms. I was just like all over the place. There was no control. My central nervous system was going doolally. I just got down and held on to things, so it wasn't too bad, but it was a really scary moment. But I've had that many times since, but because I recognize it, it's not scary anymore. But the first time was really quite terrifying. But as I said, I've got it in my head. Anything weird, and I suggest you do the same, anything weird, just have some sugar. This is a funny symptom, this one, the one with me shaking all over the place. One time my stepdad came home, I was on the kitchen floor, like shaking all over the place. And once I reassured him I was okay and I'd had some sugar, we were in hysterics. It's absolutely hilarious. But I'm not sure if anyone else has had that, but it made me laugh quite a lot. I've thrown cereal all over the wall and got stuff in the computer, keyboard and stuff. So if you get the shakes, hold on to something, really. So, some observations from traveling. They might help you if you go on trips or just in everyday life, maybe. I was in Vietnam and I smashed some of my vials, the glass vials. I don't know why they put them in glass, but I had them in glass and smashed some insulin. And I had to go and find some more. I had to buy some more. So I went to all these pharmacies, probably went to about 10 pharmacies in the end, and they didn't have insulin. I don't think it's particularly prevalent in Southeast Asia. But eventually I found a type of insulin. I still don't know what it was. I think it was called Novatard or something, but I never heard of it before. I injected it just to avoid getting ketoacidosis, but you might want to, if you go anywhere, just learn a little bit about the different types of insulin. There's one called 3070 is Mixtard in America, so they even give them different names. Keep your insulin protected. I have Tupperware containers with my insulin in, stuffed with socks and all this kind of stuff because I don't want to smash anymore. Carry extra insulin. I always carry like an extra 50%, so if I smash something then I've got some spares. With different expiry dates also, because I've had it run out before. Just for your information, which is quite interesting actually, I was in South America for 2 years traveling, and I've never actually cooled my insulin. I just carry it in my bag. I never had the ability to cool it. But it lasted quite a long time. I had some insulin when I was in South America that after a year being at room temperature, which was pretty hot, it stopped working. But it didn't stop overnight. It didn't just do it straight away. It slowly starts to degenerate. So I was just injecting more and managed to cope that way. But be aware, because they scared me into keeping it in the fridge all the time. But I know from experience now that it's not that bad. If you go on a week holiday and you haven't got a fridge in your hotel, then don't worry about it. You can get certain products. These things are quite good. I think you just soak them in water, and for 48 hours they keep your insulin cold. But as I said, for a year I had it at over 30 degrees every day, and it didn't stop working straight away. It was a year before it slowly started to degenerate. Okay, when flying, I always take my insulin in my carry-on luggage, of course, because it freezes underneath, but also I don't want the airline to lose my insulin, because they're rubbish with bags. Take sugar on the flight. I've found nervous moments, like turbulence and landing in particular, makes my blood sugar drop, and this is the times when usually the flight attendants are out back or strapped in somewhere. So they have diabetic meals. I'm sure most of you are aware of this, but just in case, you can get diabetic meals, but they taste awful. I mean, I know plain food isn't that good, but these are particularly bad. If you get delayed, I've got food vouchers off people before, just saying, oh, you've disrupted my system and I'm not going to be able to eat on time, and they've given me $30 worth of vouchers to spend at the airport, so you might get away with that. It doesn't happen so much anymore, but don't tell Ryanair. Ryanair will probably charge you insulin tax or something. Okay, I haven't had many problems with customs. Actually, I've had 2 problems with customs in 14 years, so don't worry about taking your insulin. They're used to it, basically. This was one time I had a problem. I went from Peru into Brazil, going down the Amazon and sleeping in a hammock, and you can see the photo here. At 3 in the morning, as we crossed the border, they made me turn out all my stuff from my bag, and because they found a white powdery substance, they obviously thought something was dodgy. And you might want to consider the standard of healthcare, whether it's free or you need insurance. Check what the ambulances are like as well. I've been to some countries where they take you to hospital on a horseback. So yeah, just be aware of that. Time difference is one thing I've noticed, is because I'm not on nighttime insulin and daytime insulin. So if I jump forward 6 hours, then there's a kind of a gap between when I do my nighttime injections. So I could either have double the dose if I go one way around the world, or I have 6 hours without any nighttime insulin. So this can cause problems, but blood tests and just doing much more regular blood tests sorts out this problem, really. Body clock changes. I've noticed from traveling a lot, this 30-hour trip, for example, when I came home from Buenos Aires, it really affects my blood sugar, affects the amount of insulin I need. It affects the dosage, particularly my nighttime. I often have to drop my nighttime, otherwise I have hypos during the night. I worked for Tesco's. One of these rubbish jobs I did was working for Tesco's, a night shift, and the first few days of this, it completely threw my system out. Changing from living in the day to living at night, it absolutely, in the evening I ate a meal, I didn't do any injection. I went to work, and an hour later I had one of the worst hypos I've had, and I ate three of these full of sugar, and I still was going hypo. And then an hour later I did my blood sugars and it was 10. So, I didn't eat for that. I had pasta, a huge meal. I was going to work all night, so it really completely threw. I've written a lot about this for one of my blogs was about this. If you want to know more information, or you can contact me. So, yeah, if there's a big time difference, all of these situations, most of these ones I'm talking about, you can just fix by just doing more blood tests. I just have to keep much more regular sort of eye on how my bloods are. Temperature and altitude also has a big effect on me, particularly if I go from a really cold to hot country, if I fly a big distance. Again, if I can have to reduce my nighttime insulin from 27 to 22 or something like this. It can have a really dramatic effect. Same for the daytime insulin. Altitude as well, but I'm not sure if that's air pressure or if it's just because when you change altitude, the temperature changes as well. But both of those you might want to bear in mind. They've definitely had an effect on me. So my attitude to food. You might want to learn about the food available in your destination, obviously if you're going somewhere. I've had quite a few occasions where I've not really known what I've been eating, or my mum used to take suitcases full of cornflakes and digestives because she took me to Corfu once and I didn't like the food there, so you want to be aware of what you can get abroad. As I was kind of saying a little bit earlier, I actually think that being diabetic has been a blessing in disguise. I've ignored the adverts, I've not really paid attention to them, and I haven't filled my life with all the rubbish food that they want us to eat. Of course, I do love naughty food, everyone does. I do like sweet stuff, but I've incorporated it into my lifestyle. So I sometimes eat cake or chocolate to bring me out of hypos. I do this because I can't get anything else. I've been in countries and the only thing I've been able to get has been some chocolate biscuits or something. And it's fine, I eat some biscuits and it brings me out of the hypo. I've done a lot of cycling trips. I used to cycle 60, 70 miles in a day with 30 kilos on the back. And there's been times I've actually needed to eat sweet stuff to keep my sugars up. So I've had, on some of these days, I've had 2 big chocolate bars. So I tell you this because when I was first diagnosed, I was scared that I was never going to be able to eat nice food ever again. I was scared that, I'm not going to be able to eat chocolate. And I thought, well, this is totally unnecessary, this was basically, because I've incorporated it into my diet, and if you're sporty, you'll be able to get some nice food in there for sure. The less sugary food you eat, the better though. That's definitely the case. You'll have much better control. I really don't say eat bad food. It's much better to not eat any, and your control will be much better. It's just something I don't avoid like the plague. I just do lots of blood tests. I eat whatever I can get my hands on, and do lots and lots of blood tests. So when I'm traveling, it's a lot harder to control what I eat. You might want to try something new. This is me going through a bag of insects. This is a cockroach I'm eating here. So not many people know how much carbohydrates in the cockroach. So I've had to eat some foods and really not knowing what's in it. I get invited for meals all the time. This was in Mauritania again. This guy here that I'm hugging just saw me on the street and insisted I met his entire family. He invited me for lunch, and I don't know what they put in it, something sweet. But so it sent my blood sugars high, but it was no problem. I know more blood tests, and then you realise you're going high. I have some fast-acting insulin, and that's kind of sorted that out really. While I was in Vietnam, I had a fruit that was a bit like a dragon fruit. It didn't really taste sweet, but that again started sending my blood sugar high. But as I said, half an hour later, if I eat something I'm really not sure what's in it, I do a blood test and see if I'm going up or down, and then I either eat something sweet or adjust accordingly. Let's put it that way. So a message to those young diabetic people: just strive to do your best. I actually think it's a mental choice. From what I've found, it's not that difficult to look after your diabetes. It's more choosing to look after yourself. So I would suggest you do. I didn't for the first few years. I was a bit rebellious. And then, I'm not sure if any of you know this guy, Gary Mabbott. I'm sure the dads do, the mums maybe as well. He used to play for England and Tottenham. He was captain, I think. And After a few years of being diabetic, I read his book and I just thought, well, actually, this guy has done a lot with his life. You know, he was an athlete, so it made me realize you don't have to let diabetes stop you doing what you want to do. You can do whatever you want. There are plenty of successful diabetics. Theresa May, our current Prime Minister, she's diabetic. Halle Berry, I think, and there's loads. I don't really pay attention to TV, so I looked online yesterday and there's a load of famous people, but I didn't know who any of them were, so they're obviously not that famous. But Steve Redgrave, but he's type 2. So, but there's plenty of people who lead interesting lives, and I bet they all look after themselves. All you have to do, it's quite easy really, is you just have to get your head around eating well and exercising, but that's something we should all be doing. You know, hint for your parents there. You just have to do injections and do enough blood tests so you know your blood sugars are in safe limits. I know you guys know this, but it's pretty simple really. It's just, as I said, I think it's personally more of a mental battle than anything. And it only takes 30 seconds to test your blood. Why not? So as I said, I was particularly rebellious when I was younger. I mean, and I know lots of young people are rebellious and they don't want to deal with the diabetes. I didn't want to. I didn't like the structure. I didn't like being told what to do, what to eat, and all these kind of things. But if I could talk to my younger self, I'd just say, you know, like, get over that. Learn from people how to take care of yourself. There was a little bit too many people trying to tell me how to do it, and I wanted to do it myself. So I would say, you know, learn from people around you, and you can really take care and look after yourself. It's really not difficult. Don't let diabetes control your life. Take control of it by controlling yourself. Let it shape you into a stronger, better person. You can use it to eat well, inspire you to exercise. You can live your life better. I wouldn't have done so much without taking control of myself. I've done a lot of stuff now, but I wouldn't have done it without taking control of my diabetes. And give yourself plenty of time to explore this beautiful planet. It's a lovely place. So, a little plug for myself. If anybody wants to contact me, I'm totally online. I've got cornflaketraveler.com website and Modern Explorers one, which is more about ancient sites and research I do. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Feel free to make friends with me or follow me or contact me in any way if anyone wants any advice about anything. You can see some of my favorite photos, camping around Iceland, and as I said, I've done lots of research into ancient sites and things. I've made lots of films. I make cornflake films, which is just cornflakes in a certain country, and I just tell my story of my trip around there, and I do some other, like I love stone circles and pyramids and these kind of things, so these might interest you. This is me riding an ostrich, holding a box of cornflakes. That's going to be in one of my films. So yeah, that's it.